Well, as people have continued to stay home, even as the pandemic starts to slowly subside and offices start to reopen, people are trying to refocus their spaces and make it more productive for their work life as well as their home life, and they need some help with that. It's not the easiest thing setting up a home office, especially if you're setting up a home office where you're doing a lot of different Zoom calls and trying to be presentable in your own space as well. And so people are enlisting the help of experts throughout our local area and throughout the state of Michigan, including people like Veronica Simmons, our next guest on the show, the principal interior designer and owner of Simmons & Company Design, with us now on the MegaCast. Veronica, thank you for being with us today.
Tyler, thanks for having us. Appreciate you, man.
Appreciate having you on the show. So for those that are unfamiliar with the work that your company does, can you explain a little bit about how you help people reconfigure their home spaces or even their workspaces to be more productive in our modern work environment?
Well, yeah, absolutely. Great question. So we are a full service interior design firm. So we really work with our clients from concept to completion throughout the whole process to make sure that their space comes out the way that they want it. It's such an interesting time because you're correct. So many people are spending so much time at home. So what used to be the main focus of the family room or the living room or the dining room, there's been a heavy shift towards the home office because not only are people spending more time at home, they are also working at home. So the priority has become more about how do I make my space functional? How does it work for me to work from home, but also maybe for my kids to be homeschooling from home, for myself and my spouse to be working out of one space. So there are a lot of things to consider. And that's what our job is here, is to listen to what the needs are and make sure the space comes out appropriately for what that family's lifestyle is.
Veronica, everyone's home is different, whether they're living in a multi-bedroom home or they're living in an apartment. People have different spaces and different needs, not only in their home family life, but for their home office as well. So as people are preparing to make a space in their home, to convert into that home office space or that homeschooling space, what are some of the key considerations they should make in choosing where that is in their home?
Well, another good question. So we've seen a lot of people, a lot of homes, like you said, Tyler, have dedicated home offices. But with so many people working at home, we've seen people kind of convert their dining room into a home office or convert an extra media room or extra space that they may have so that it accommodates the entire family. So mom, dad, 2 kids or 3 kids, everybody needs a space to function. So the first thing to consider is really how much space do you need? How many people are going to be working out of this space? And how often are they going to be working out of this space? Because even if 4 people need to use the space, is everybody using it at the same time, or is there a flow in and out? So size is always really important in analyzing, what space is going to work for the home office.
And what about in terms of functionality and presentability as well? Because in a lot of these cases, whether it's your kids in school or it's yourself in a work environment where you're interacting with your coworkers, with your bosses, interacting, of course, with clients, and you want your space to not only be a comfortable space and effective work environment, but also be presentable in a world that's becoming more increasingly virtual, especially given what we've been through in the past year plus with the COVID-19 pandemic.
Yeah, absolutely. So there are 3 things generally that we like to consider in every space that we do, including home offices. The first being scale. There are so many people, we walk into homes where people have this huge home office and they have a little bitty desk, or vice versa. They have a tiny little home office and they have this monstrous executive desk set up, L-shaped, with all sorts of things going on behind it. So you have to know what size space you have, and you have to have furniture that's scaled appropriately. You cannot have oversized furniture in a very small space or little baby furniture in a large space. The next thing to consider really is lighting. And this is always key in any space that we do, having different sources of light. So you want to have general lighting. For us in a lot of spaces, that's recessed lights, can lights, that just give you general lighting for the space. So you walk in, you turn those on, and everybody can see, you can see what's going on. Then you want to have some general task lighting. So whether that be at your desk, depending on your job, where you're spending time at in the home office, if it's at your desk or if it's at an accessory desk, making sure that you have light for that focused task that you're doing. And then just lastly, some decorative general accent lighting. So if you have built-in bookcases, maybe having some strip lighting underneath there, maybe it's having some accent table lamps, but having it so that you can really function throughout the day with different types of lighting. Usually the home office is that first, when you walk into a home, either it's on the left or the right, it's normally towards the front of the home. So being able to have different sources of lighting where even if you're entertaining after hours, the home office can still look attractive if you're having guests over or neighbors or things like that. And lastly being just storage. There are lots of books, lots of files, lots of any and everything, depending on your job that you have, that you want to be able to put behind closed doors when needed. So whether you really want that custom look from built-in bookshelves and file cabinets and all sorts of storage that way, or if you want free-floating storage, a free-floating file cabinet or bookshelf, just making sure that you have adequate storage for the needs of you and your family, so the space can still look presentable when you're not in it, or where your mind can relax when you have space to put things when you're inside of it is really important.
We're joined by Veronica Simmons on the Oakland County Megacast. She's the principal interior designer and the owner of Simmons and Company Design with us today on the program. And while we're thinking about the location in the home of these offices, because not everybody's going to have a widespread space that they can necessarily choose one end of the home versus the other, and it's going to necessarily make a difference for their home office. What are other considerations that are taken into place, particularly in smaller environments, that such as an apartment or as maybe a 1 or 2 bedroom home, that people can take into consideration when building these home offices, knowing that while they're in their office or while their kids in their office doing schoolwork, home life continues on, life outside continues on, and you don't want to have those interruptions that can either, in the lightest scenario, maybe sound or look a little bit unprofessional, or at the worst case, be a severe interruption to your work at hand.
Sure. So having dual spaces, dual functionality in spaces has always been important. And in particular, like you said, Tyler, in apartments or maybe 1 or 2 bedroom homes where you don't have a lot of space, downtown living, things like that, it's important to be able to have spaces that can function as both. So having multi-use pieces, maybe a dining table that can also be used as a desk. Maybe your guest room or your second bedroom has a Murphy bed in it that can be folded up so that you can also then still work in the space throughout the day. And you made a great point, Tyler, about people just Zooming like we are now, where people can't always be physically at their work and are FaceTiming in with other people or Zooming in. Being able to have a nice background, usually facing away from a window, not facing towards a window, with wall covering like what we have behind us here, or just something that really spices the space up, that shows your personality, shows what, that fits the lifestyle or the professional work style that you have, is always a plus.
We're joined by Veronica Simmons, principal interior designer and owner of Simmons and Company Design, with us today on the Oakland County Megacast. And we talked a lot about the do's and the considerations to take into play when you're designing or your home office environment. What are some of the common things that your company sees people do when they are forming their home office, when they're putting that together, and then they bring you in because something goes wrong? What are some of those things that you see that are absolute don'ts when you're building your home office?
Well, I kind of already touched on one. The big absolute don't is that we see time and time again, and it's home office and other spaces, is scale. People, and it's because people are really doing so much shopping online. But frankly, this was happening 10 years ago when people were doing a ton of shopping at stores. When you're in a showroom or you're somewhere, this desk or this sofa or whatever, this looks perfect for my space, and you buy it, you get it home, and it's like, whoa, this looks way bigger than it looked on the showroom floor. Same thing is happening online. People go, they click, they love it. Oh, this is great. I'm gonna get it. It shows up in a little box, and it's like, whoa, this is way smaller than I thought it was really going to be. So usually that's one of the phone calls while we try to get in before you start to make mistakes. That's usually one of the big phone calls that we get is, I bought something, I put it in the space, it doesn't look right, and I have no idea what to do from here. So I figured I should probably stop wasting money and have a professional help. The next thing is color. And we're doing a lot on our social media this past month about color and the use of color. And people really don't know how to use color. You give them a paint deck and they're looking at a fan full of colors and it's overwhelming. It's like, I know I like green or I know I like blue, but how much do I really use? Where do I use it? Do I use it on my main pieces or do I use it on an accent? Do I actually paint my walls blue? Does that include my ceiling? What do I do with my trim if my walls are blue? You know, so there's so many things as it unfolds that I think people really get down a rabbit hole and they don't really know where to go. So I would say probably those are the two biggest things, scale and people just really making poor decisions with color that prompt them to give us a call.
We're joined by Veronica Simmons here on the Oakland County MegaCast. She is the principal interior designer and owner of Simmons & Company Design, joining us on the show today. And Veronica, just another couple minutes with you before we'll say goodbye today. If people are interested in your services or your consultation as they're preparing their home office for the present right now, if they're going back home to work or if they're going to be working in a hybrid situation, whatever that may be, how can they best get in contact with you and start this process?
Well, you can always visit our website, www.simmons.com. We're also on Instagram and Facebook. Typically, you have to search Simmons Plus Co. on Facebook, and on Instagram, it's just Simmons Co. Design. You should be able to find us. We would love for you to follow us and stay connected. We'll be able to kind of come out on an initial consultation that's complimentary and be able to get a gauge as to what's going on in the space, give you some guidance, give you a kind of a estimated budget range, and figure out steps for moving forward from there.
Well, Veronica, we appreciate you having you on the show today. Appreciate you coming on.
Thanks, Tyler. Appreciate you.